Today is Monday, June 29th, 2020. Its time is now 5:30, and we'll go with a roll call. Miss Red.
Present.
Miss Gorel.
Present.
Mr. Butita. Mr. Fellers.
Here.
Mr. Arena.
Here.
All right, we do have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes for April 23rd and May 7th, 2020. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Ms. Gorel, motion, second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Reds. Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. The next item of business is public comment. Is there anyone online on Zoom that has a public comment for the Public Safety Committee? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item, and that is item E, resolution authorizing the First Amendment of an agreement between Winnebago County and Remedies Renewing Lives for domestic violence enhancement, training, and services to end abuse in later life grant. Is there any questions or discussion, or is there a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Got a motion by, sound like Mr. Fellers?
Yes.
And I'll second it.
And a second by Ms. Gorel. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Chairman, I'd like an explanation of what it's about. Is there somebody available to do that?
Right.
Yes.
I saw
Right. Yes, I believe there is. Somebody from Mr. Jakeway's office online?
Yes.
Mr.
sorry.
Booker, this is Tom Jakeway. Good evening, everyone. We're glad to provide an explanation about our abuse and later life grant. And I'll just note that both items E and F both relate to this abuse and later life grant. And in order to do so, I'm going to turn things over to and introduce Anna Grzelek in my office, who's the project manager. And if you could please let us know about that grant and about what this first contract's all about, we'd appreciate it.
Yes, great, thank you.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you everyone for allowing us to come tonight and share some information about the grant. I am Anna Grzelek, the project coordinator for the grant, and this grant addresses elder abuse, neglect, and exploitation, including domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking against victims who are 50 years of age and older. The term abuse in later life applies to victims who are 50 and older in part because they may need economic assistance to attain safe housing and live independently if they choose to leave their abuser. However, victims who are age 50 and older, between 50 and 62, may be ineligible for financial assistance from the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program because they may not be parenting children. They also may be ineligible for Social Security and Aging Network services because they are too young. Abuse in later life also refers to the segment of elder abuse that focuses specifically on those cases where the abuse is perpetrated by someone in an ongoing relationship with the victim. Allowable activities under this grant include creating a coordinated community response to abuse in later life, organizing training and cross-training for professionals, developing services for older victims, and conducting outreach and public awareness activities. One of our grant partners is Remedies Renewing Lives, our local domestic violence service provider. And Remedies receives grant funding currently to attend and help facilitate required trainings, attend meetings, and participate in the abuse and later life coordinated community response. So one of the requirements under the grant is to provide direct victim services, specifically for victims age 50 and older. And in order to do this, we are amending Remedies contract to allow for the creation of a new position the abuse and later life advocate, who will be an employee of Remedies and 100% funded under the grant. This grant does not require any county matching funds. And the advocate will operate out of the Family Peace Center for about 36 hours a week and out of LifeScape for about 4 hours per week. They're going to provide all forms of advocacy, including legal advocacy. They'll be able to assist victims with that process. They'll have a laptop. They'll be able to assist with victims with obtaining an order of protection remotely also. Costs for supervision, mileage, and all the needed supplies are also included in the contract. And then also, we currently have a contract with Rockford Sexual Assault Counseling, and under their current contract, RSAC receives grant funding to attend and help facilitate trainings, attend meetings, and participate in the abuse and later life coordinated community response. And RSAC's amended, pardon?
I think, Anna, thank you. I think we better leave the RSAC for
Oh,
item
I'm
F.
sorry.
Once we get there, let's if we can stop there and take any questions on the remedies part before moving on to
Okay,
RSAC.
I apologize, sorry.
No, that's okay. This is fantastic, just fantastic news. And this grant, is that a federal Department of Justice grant?
Yes, it's through the Office of Violence Against Women.
Right, fantastic. We've really been blessed with these grants for domestic violence and sexual abuse counseling and everything that's helping our community here in Rockford, Winnebago County. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm one of the partners for the several and multiple OVW grants we have to address domestic violence. This funding, was it allocated from a different position, or you created the position with the current funding?
Yes, so there was $148,000 that was in the other category of the budget for direct services, allocated for direct services. But we had to do a community-wide needs assessment and develop a strategic plan for how that money was going to be used to provide direct services before we could actually start doing it. So now that the plan has been approved by OVW, we're moving forward with offering direct services. So it is a part of that original $400,000. It just is now being actually allocated to provide those direct services.
And that was my question. Thank you, Anna, and thank you for all that you do to assist all of us in this partnership.
Thank you so much, State's Attorney Height-Ross. I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Hearing none, we'll vote to approve the resolution. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed to the resolution? Very good. Thank you. Motion carries. Item F on the agenda is a resolution authorizing First Amendment of an agreement between Winnebago County and Rockford Sexual Assault for services to end abuse and later life grant. Motion?
Second.
Second by Ms. Squirrel. Any discussion? And Anne, did you want to continue with the additional information?
Yes, I'll just provide some information. So now that you have the information about the grant, we also currently have a contract with Rockford Sexual Assault Counseling. So they are receiving grant funding to attend and help facilitate required training through the grant and participate in the abuse and later life coordinated community response. So their amended contract funds them to provide 10 hours per week of individual and group counseling, and the counselor from RSAC and from the Abuse and Later Life Advocate are also going to be offering a combined domestic violence and sexual assault group, support group, specifically for older adult survivors. So we feel that these services are going to help address some of the barriers that older adult survivors face in accessing services.
Wow, fantastic. Again, we are blessed to have these grants and the work that you're doing, Ann, and Tom, Jakeway, everyone in your office and your staff. Fantastic. Kudos to you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody okay? Okay, we got a motion and a second for the resolution to approve the First Amendment of the agreement between Winnebago County and Rockford Sexual Assault for Services to End Abuse in Later Life Grant. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Next item is the resolution for the Winnebago County Chairman to trying to keep up with my notes here. Mr. Chapman?
Yes, one item before we get to this agenda item. Mr. Butita is no longer on public safety, and Mr. Zintek is on the committee. He's on the Zoom call tonight, just for your information. So, in terms of this particular item, this is a amendment to the healthcare services contract the jail has, and also the detention home. Ann Johns is on the call tonight to give a synopsis of the changes. So if we could go to Ann.
Very good. Ann Johns?
Good evening. So for we're talking about the medical contract?
Yes,
and
the inmate.
The university, because of the COVID situations, there was a need to make adjustments. First, I'll discuss the university contract with the jail. During the COVID basic shutdown of the jail, the providers, the subcontractors to the university, were not able to come in and have group counseling or do the things that normally would be done in a group setting. And the provider, the subcontractor, still expected to get paid even though they weren't able to come in. And part of their services were to provide group counseling in groups of 8 or 10. And that's a fairly good size chunk of money to pay for that. But again, it may be months before group settings will be allowed. So the university elected to eliminate that subcontractor, so we're not just paying them for no work, and they have picked up the workload themselves and are going to do the work themselves and just charge when there's actual counseling done. And they've also hired a second person that will pick up the shifts for the weekend and sick time for the full-time person that is there. And so actually the cost has gone down just a little bit. So that's basically what this agreement is to. It's an amendment to an agreement that started in, I think it was February, but because of COVID, there was a need to make the changes. The same thing for physical therapy. We're not going to pay for physical therapy unless it is provided. Because the way it was before is we just paid a flat rate every month.
All over the place.
And so that's that contract. And for the juvenile, there's actually an increase of $5,324 over the contract that was awarded, the renewal contract from February, and that was a request from Debbie Jarvis for increased RN hours, and the university has agreed to do that. So those are basically what the two amendments are to the contract. And this will run now until next February when we renew again. We don't anticipate any other changes.
All right, real good. Also online, I believe, is Winnebago County Corrections Captain Tim Owens.
No, Tim isn't on.
Okay. Yeah, I can't see it from my phone. But
no, he wasn't able to.
He might have been on.
No, he is off today, and I just confirmed. I was just speaking with him in the other room on my cell phone, just confirming that I had had it correct as far as if it was budget neutral. And it's not only budget neutral; it's a little bit of a savings. But we went back and forth with the provider was Remedies, and we can't afford to pay for services that aren't provided, and we don't know when they can be provided.
All right, very good. Are there any other questions?
Does that mean we're out of the contract then for remedies?
Yes.
Fine.
No, excuse me. The university is. They were all, the dentist, the physical therapy, and mental health are subcontractors of the university. So the university has decided to terminate that contract themselves, and they're going to pick up the services to provide them as needed at an hourly rate. So that'll be better.
Thank
We
you.
have no control over the subcontractors, but we know when they're not coming, it doesn't help us. So.
Very good.
Yep.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Ms. Gore.
Sure.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, I will need a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the county board chairman to amend the contract for healthcare services for inmates of the Winnebago County Jail and detainees of the Juvenile Detention Center.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Red and a second by
Dan Fellers.
Dan Fellers. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Resolution carries. Just one other quick item, Ms. Red, just to keep you posted. We are, the Sheriff's Department, the Sheriff and the Chief Deputy and I are working on getting possibly the Memorial Hall, and we're also going to include the State's Attorney's Office and Chief Judge on this forum, community forum that you made a motion on.
Okay, sounds good. Do we want to do that on Facebook as well?
Well, they brought up a good point. Is now that we've moved to phase 4, we can actually go to a facility just as long as we don't exceed 50 people.
Okay.
Any thoughts on that?
I was thinking Facebook and we could do more than 50. But that's just my thought, you know.
Right. I understand.
But if we went on Facebook and did a Zoom, we wouldn't have that many people from the audience actually speaking to us or asking questions.
If I may,
Right.
Mr. Chairman, we could always at least start by, for those that can dial into a Zoom, we can set it up so that they can ask questions via the chat function. And for people that can't dial into the Zoom and have to watch on, say, YouTube, we could collect questions ahead of time.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I may,
Yeah.
Mr.
We can work with Gus to set up the Zoom so that there are moderators and participants. Participants can't speak; they can only observe. But you can create a QA window so they can ask questions within the question and answer section.
All right. Very good. That sounds like a great idea. Thank you, Mr. Fellers. I'll mention that in discussion tomorrow. Very good.
Chairman. Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Height-Ross, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to suggest what Mr. Fellers has suggested, and also let everyone know that the Sheriff's Office has reached out to me, and I will be participating. We will maintain the proper social distancing at the facility in person, but I do agree with Mr. Fellers, and I've participated in Zoom meetings where individuals could not speak, but they were able to type in their questions through a moderator who would then ask those to the panelists. So thank you, Mr. Fellers.
Thank you, Ms. Height-Ross. I think this is a wonderful idea, and I'm really looking forward to this.
And
Is there any other?
So, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like help on the technology side, moderating and making all of that work, I'm happy to offer up my assistance.
Great.
Great. Yep. So, it sounds like you know what you're talking about there. I trust you.
Zoom life forever, baby.
No. Oh, I can't wait for this to be over. But anyway, any other matters before the Public Safety Committee? Hearing none, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion. We got a motion by Mr. Fellers and a second by Ms. Gorel and Ms. Red. All those in favor of adjournment? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion, Public Safety Committee is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Ms. Height Ross, Tom Jakeway, and Ann Johns, and appreciate everyone on this short notice. So have a good night.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening,
Good night.
everyone. Stay safe.